7 days, 1 week. What are you going to be talking about a week from today?
I don't know, man. Joe Burrow, a lot of Joe Burrow content. Number nine, a lot. I don't know. Just that's all I
It's all training camp, man.
got.
Yes, sir, man.
Rookies on Tuesday, everybody else on Wednesday. Time to see what we look like outside of our underwear. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, the Bengals already teased us with pictures with Headband Joe, so that's going to be nice. I'm excited to see that new look. The safeties and the right tackle competition, all that's going to be talking subjects with training camp. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for it.
Maybe
Hey,
right before.
listen, we got some good stuff today, though. I mean, we got running back valuations have went crazy and haywire. Everybody talking about that. We got Justin Jefferson. We got some fantasy football we're going to talk about. It's a nice little show. Should we get into it?
Let's do it.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, we are back. Welcome to Running Through the Jungle. I'm your host, Brandon Herriott, with your host, Justin Lacey, and our guest from the channel, Chase Younts. Chase, how you doing today?
Man, doing pretty good. Just a lot of work. Been grinding on the Cut the Chase Sports podcast, man, and just excited to be back here again.
So we are going to be uploading this. Will be our first upload to video. We're working on YouTube right now to go live. Hopefully, we'll get that figured out next week. So you will see Chase, for those of you on YouTube. I think he's got one fantasy board he's showing, and one looks like he's covering it up. Like he's not willing to let the goods go.
Well, there's one back there behind this green screen or tarp, you want to call it. There's one over there, and then right to my right, there's a board on top of a board on top of a board. So that's all I gotta say.
You got levels to this, huh?
Got
Levels
that
to
right.
this stuff.
83, man. You know what I'm saying?
All right,
Yeah.
Justin, how you been, man?
Oh man, I'm doing fantastic. Ready to get rocking and rolling with you guys. Yeah, Chase got the ultimate setup, and so do you, B. There, you have a great setup too. For those that are going to be viewing this on YouTube, I'm a little bit of a blank check here, meaning that I don't have anything hanging on my walls. This is yet. I'll get there. I'll definitely keep building as we continue to grow
Hey,
through
it's a
this
long
channel.
season. It's a
Mhm.
long season.
Yeah, man.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
I've got some stuff on order too. We're gonna see. For those of you watching, we see I've got a flag over my shoulder here for the Running Through the Jungle flag. Also got the Running Through the Jungle merch.
Merch.
So I got some
Love it.
shirts and hats. I got some more getting made for the fellas. They are obviously more fit than me, so my fat sizes did not fit them. So I got correct sizing coming. We'll get those shipped out to everybody. But yeah, let's get into the show. We did a little pivot about what we were going to talk to since Sunday. We kind of talked about what we were getting into today, and here come the running back valuations. And Justin, you had something to say about this, so I'll let you start it off. Running back valuations in the league seem to have taken a nosedive over the past 4 or 5 years. What do you got to think about it?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of a triggering point at this for me because it's really sad where we have gone with the running back position that we have sort of purposely devalued it because of the aesthetics of the passing game sort of taking over, which I understand. The passing offenses that tends to be the thing that sells the tickets. We have a high flying passing quarterback and a high flying passing offense, but at the end of the day, that running game still matters. What was always very frustrating to me was that people like to say, oh, you can find a running back anywhere, which in theory you can in a lot of ways. But people only say that until they need a running back. And I said this on the heels of Joe Mixon when he decided to restructure, or I'm not even sure if restructure is the right terminology because it was sort of like a pay cut. When he decided to redo his contract, so to speak. And
Yeah, so
it was very
restructuring would add years to it, or
right.
add a new contract. This is the same contract. He just took a reduced salary.
Right. He just took a reduced salary and then just kind of split it in half, and essentially that's essentially a pay cut. I get it that it's something different in a lot of people's minds, but regarding the technical terms of it, whatever you want to call it, Joe Mixon's still going to be a Bengal, and he understands the more important aspect of winning. But nonetheless, this whole thing kind of started for me when you saw by the deadline that Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs were not offered deals. Maybe I'll only say that they weren't offered. I'm not really kind of sourced out in that manner, but it was very surprising that they weren't really given the extensions after their rookie contracts. And they've been great players. They've been great running backs. I understand that Barkley had a couple of injury history a little bit there, but the dude has been a very valuable player to his team. He's the heart and soul, the nucleus, the engine that keeps that team going. If you ask me, he's probably the most valuable player on that team outside other than Daniel Jones. Some would even say that Barkley's better than Daniel Jones. I would, but and to see that it is kind of like a chain reaction and always automatically assume that basically running back's supposed to work and perform as hard as everybody else on the team, but they're supposed to be paid the least. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I feel like that we live in a world where running backs are just automatically just looked as just such a pawn position, whereas they mean so much to the team, So it's definitely a triggering point for me, because I definitely feel for those guys. They definitely deserve the bag, and it sucks what they're going through right now. And then those are not the two that's a part of dealing with that. There's others in the other veteran running backs, I should say, that everybody's more or less excited about the new toys like rookies and for them to come into the fold and take their jobs. Whereas it's like you've got young players that are they're in the peak of their prime, running hard, like Saquon Barkley. Just give him the bag. Like, just give him what he deserves.
So
go ahead.
Let me go ahead and keep to my B Dirt moniker here and kind of be the devil's advocate and keep the ball in your court here. The reports I saw with Saquon were 4 years, 52, 13 a year. So where is that number? I think the skew comes a little bit from you've got wide receivers getting in that 25 to 30 million range with the new deal that Tyreek Hill did and so on and so forth. So where's that number fit in your mind? Like, where's fair play at the top end? I mean, Saquon's top 3 running back. I don't think anybody would argue that, especially for that team.
Yeah.
So where do you see that number falling? If it's more than 13, where do you think it's at?
Well, not to say that it should be like an exact number behind it. If I were to place a number value, I'm not going to sort of dodge the question there that you said. So I will probably put it maybe around the 14 million range, maybe 15. I mean, just think about it. Christian McCaffrey signed an extension and he got a $16 million contract, per year contract, not that long ago. When Joe Mixon signed his contract, he averaged $12 million a year, a 4-year, $48 million deal. Obviously, some of that was sort of like not fully guaranteed, and the guaranteed numbers are a different argument there, but he deserves to be amongst the highest paid, and I think that give him a fair shot to, prove he's proven that. Give him a fair shot to earn that because he has. And then whatever happens in years down the road, just like with any other player that doesn't live up to that contract, found a way to pivot, move off, restructure, however you want to do it, and call it a day.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I don't argue with you. I'm all for players getting paid. Running backs are important. Chase, how important do you think they are, and how do you think it's fair for the undervaluation they're having right now, or are you pro running back?
Well, let's just mention this. Kickers are getting paid on average $2.2 million to running backs getting paid $1.8 million.
I saw that.
I think that's absurd. I truly do, because it's like,
I did not know that.
Yeah, I alluded to what Justin said, man. I mean, there's running backs, they win games. There's times where they win games. I know quarterbacks are, the guys that, they're the moneymaker. They are the franchise piece. But, without a good run game or anything like that, I mean, your team's just going to become one-dimensional. And it's going to be a problem when it comes later on in the playoffs. And I know, you could draft the running back, later rounds and stuff like that. That is shown true. And, the modern running back nowadays isn't your 25 to 30 attempts, run them in between the tackles, first, second down, throw them 3rd and 4. It's pass catch out of the backfield 4, 5, 6 times a game. It's run the football 15 times a game, vary it off the tackle. I mean, in between the guards. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot more variation to it now. And I just wanted to mention with Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley. Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing last year. He had 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley had 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. Both of those teams relied on them heavily because let's say this: Derek Carr wasn't the best last season. He was he was not his playoff self when he went to the playoffs in 2021. Josh Jacobs, he had his 5th-year option was declined. Like, let's not forget that it wasn't picked up going into this year. So this was basically a contract year, and it was one of the worst things for the Raiders possible to see Josh Jacobs go and lead the league in rushing. It was a great thing, but then it was a bad thing as well. And, now you're in this situation, and honestly, it's like, well, we don't want to pay you because we don't really value you that much. We have Devontae Adams out here that we got to worry about paying. We got to worry about making him happy, but we can't figure out who our quarterback is because Jimmy Garoppolo can't pass a damn physical. So I don't know. It's a lot of weird things going on, but Josh Jacobs deserves to get paid. Saquon Barkley, especially Saquon Barkley, considering the fact that the Giants went to the playoffs last year. Lord knows how they made the playoffs. Their defense was terrible. Daniel Jones just didn't turn the ball over. Saquon was the team last year on offense. Obviously, Brian Dable played a part in it, but Saquon was the team on offense. And there's just some teams that have identities that are run first and will play action off of it. The Browns, for example, Nick Chubb. I know they have depth with Kareem Hunt, and then who was the guy?
Demetric Felton and Dearness Johnson.
Dearness Johnson, yeah, Dearness Johnson. Yeah. That was a big one. Yeah, so like they had so much depth that they were able to do that. But like Nick Chubb's a premier running back, Saquon, Josh Jacobs, they're all premier running backs and stuff. But some teams, their identity is we're just going to run the football and we're going to work off that and pass it. And if your primary position, your primary goal on offense is to run the football, using those guys to run the ball 20, 25 times a game, using them out of the backfield, it should get paid. I know Saquon or whatever, I think it was like he was asking for, what was that? I think I heard something about 16 one time.
16 was the number 16. I think he wanted to get what McCaffrey had.
Yeah, exactly. And, McCaffrey was also hurt as well. So it's like, it's a weird thing when you talk about the valuations and the numbers. Like, if the top of the line, I'd say right now, considering Saquon's injury history, Josh Jacobs, not as bad of injury history as Saquon, like 14. You know what I'm saying? 14 isn't bad. And both of them, it seemed like from what I heard, both of them, they were not too far off from both of their contracts getting done. They really weren't. So, I mean, at that point, it's like, if it's pretty close or it's that ballpark range, just get it done. Have security, you're getting paid that much, and you're still at the height of your career. That's still $12, $13, $14 million. And I would just say you take the contract there. But it's also saying, hey, you're one of the best running backs in the National Football League. No slight about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I being somebody who was on a debate team in college, I look at this a multitude of different ways, right? Last year was probably the healthiest in several years that Christian McCaffrey's been, and very dynamic pass catcher out of the backfield, explosion, those kind of things, as well as being able to run between the tackles. So I get the value that he has. It's, an elevated value. Maybe he's a little bit more than a Saquon, Josh Jacobs. Maybe they're that second tier because of what he can do catching the ball out of the backfield. But as soon as I say that, I can argue the other side of it. When Elijah Mitchell was healthy, his snap count went from 70% to just at 50, just above 50. So Elijah Mitchell ran the ball just as much as, actually more than when he was healthy, than Christian McCaffrey did. So you look at it, you can make those arguments with them. Then you look at, yes, listen, if it's 3rd and goal from the 2-yard line, you better have a running back you can get it to. I think the Seattle Seahawks proved that. You don't want to throw that slant, and if you got beast mode back there, you'll be ridiculed the rest of your life. I like running backs. You also look at I love running the ball. I love it when you're taking that pounding to somebody, and at the end of the game, you watch it and you can bleed out the last 4 or 5 minutes of the clock. Man, that is beautiful to me. But there's injury prone. I get both sides of it, not wanting to put too much into it, all your eggs in one basket. But you're also paying, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So you're paying 2 people there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the same valuation because it is more of a passing league because you can't hit the quarterback. You can't do those things. Maybe I get that maybe it's 25 million, but I don't see why it can't be 15. I don't know why the difference between 13 and 15, getting a deal done to me. My boss at work calls it a sparrow's belch in a hurricane. It's not going to be noticeable. You're talking about $225 million payroll. If you give your star running back, who's one of your top players on your team, probably the top player, one of the top in the league, an extra $1 million, you know what I mean? Like, get a different punter. I think it's better. I think it's better spent there. So I'm not going to disagree with you there. Since you did have a little more fuel in your fire, Justin, did you want to sound us off here? Anything you want to say on the way out?
Oh no, not too much. Not too much. But other than this, I do care about position. I mean, again, I understand that over the last several years that we've all made the argument and all heard the argument that the running back position is not kind of mattered in the sense where and it's becoming more of a dime breed, sort of like linebacker when you think about on defense, because linebackers are not really getting the same kind of bag like they used to back in the early 2000s. You don't really point at anybody and think to themselves, oh, that's the next Ray Lewis anymore. I also know that Roquan Smith, got the bag. I think he got $100 million contract with Baltimore. Yeah. Hey, but he fits that system perfectly. Like he was the perfect key that just unlocked everybody else on that defensive side of the ball. He made Patrick Queen look better than what he was. So I have to give him credit to that there. So his value was immense, truly. But I think that ultimately at the end of the day, you can't be scared to invest in the position. You just can't be, especially if you're a team that are leaning towards you don't know what you got at quarterback, like the New York Giants. Yeah, you gave Daniel Jones a $40 million contract, but that's
the contract here I have a problem with. When you
that was stupid.
Giants.
That was so
that's
dumb.
crazy.
Exactly. So dumb. So dumb.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean,
that's
you're saying you can spend 40 on him and not 15 on Saquon. Then we start having a different argument. When you've got a great player like that, who's not, there's a fall off at 31 historically with running backs. You're not talking about this is his second contract. You get that one contract right now after your rookie deal that you can really make some money. I don't think that that's what you got to worry about paying them. So it's the old adage, it's, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. You got your great player right there. He wants to re-sign with you. He just wants an extra $1 million or $2 million. Give it to him. You got him. You don't know what you're going to find the next time.
Saquon Barkley win Rookie of the Year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was the last running back to win it. So there you go. Like,
yeah, I just thought about it too. Yeah, he got it over Baker.
Yeah, so it's like,
And listen, we Bengals fans know when you draft a running back, it's not, Kajana Carter's happen. Things happen.
Yeah.
Like it looks like a home run. I mean, that guy, I remember I thought from coming out of Penn State, he was going to be better than, sliced bread and, injury prone, couldn't play on the turf, and he was done. So you got somebody that looks tough, take him, sign him. I agree with you.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll pivot here, going from the running backs to our friends, the diva wide receivers. And they're never short on making noise. And our friend Justin Jefferson, old teammate of Jamar Chase, he made some noise saying that his top 5 quarterback list, which you normally don't see these guys come out and do. He didn't give the Jamar Chase answer. He didn't give the Pat Who answer. He gave the top 5, and he did not put his quarterback in there. So I don't know. Should we feel slighted if we're, if we're Kirk Cousins? Do we feel slighted, or do we understand where he's coming from? Chase, what are your thoughts?
It's 50-50 for me. I think, it's like partially it's like, you're like, man, where's my love for literally having, like 40% of my yards were to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gave you like all that was for you, man. That was for a 13-4 season. It went 11 one-score games. But, and then part of it is like, Kirk Cousins uses motivation. He's like, you know what? Like, I do have to be better. And I got to be a better, quarterback, for my team. And, maybe in some bigger moments, stuff like that. He already knows that. But, maybe he can take it as motivation and not take it personally or anything like that. But, 40% of his yards were to Justin Jefferson, though. Like, that's
he got plenty of targets, huh? Plenty of targets.
Lots of them. I mean,
I don't know. So, Justin, what do you think? Should there be some hurt feelings? Does Justin Jefferson owe Kirk Cousins an apology, or just keep it moving?
Man, Justin Jefferson's just got to keep it moving, man. He said his list. I don't have any elongated issue with his list. And if I'm Kirk Cousins, I got to look at it with an honest standpoint. It's like, I get it that you want your players to kind of go to bat for you in the public eye and say the cookie cutter things to the media press. But there's a vast difference between Jamar Chase and his comments that he made about putting Joe Burrow number 1 and then saying, like, Jamar Chase truly believes Joe Burrow will, in no shame of doubt, be the best quarterback at some point. It may not be like during that moment right now because Patrick Mahomes got a number, he got the ring, but Justin Jefferson, he just coming at it with just being honest. And I think Kirk Cousins need to understand, like, look, pay attention to this list. Would he actually put himself above a guy like Joe Burrow, a guy like Patrick
that's what
Mahomes,
I was wondering
and
too,
and Josh Allen, and I think Jalen Hurts was number 4 in that list. And it's just no, man. Like, you got to be honest with yourself sometime. I don't even know how many years are we in with Cousins' career. Year 11,
I think
12.
you're 12 now. Yeah, I mean,
is he really going to get better and think that
is,
he's going to be a top 5 quarterback now?
Yeah.
I mean, he has his moments and he has his things, but come on, man, he got to be realistic with himself, man. So no, Justin Jefferson, don't apologize for your list. I think he doesn't have any problem going to bat for his quarterback in any other sense, but he's being honest, man. So and I respect it.
And something I took away from that quarterback Netflix special is Kirk Cousins is a level-headed guy. He's a humble guy. Mm-hmm. I don't think he would take this any sort of way. I don't think it's going to be anything in that locker room whatsoever. I think that's the least of their worries or their issues. Yeah. This did get me thinking of something. So I was looking, their top 5 quarterback list, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, according to Justin Jefferson. Number 5, Josh Allen. Number 4, Jalen Hurts. Number 3, Joe Burrow. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers. And number 1, Patrick Mahomes. I got no problem with number 1. I don't know. I think he's expecting – I don't know if he's given the career longevity award here at number 2 for Aaron Rodgers, or he expects a bounce-back year for Aaron Rodgers, or maybe he wants to secretly go to the Jets and get some passes and maybe win. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But I wouldn't put him above. No. I would maybe put him at 5, to be honest with you, out of this list. Yeah. So that said, this got me thinking, and I started thinking about it a little bit differently when I started looking at Joe Burrow's career, and I thought to myself, how would I rank the Bengals all-time quarterbacks as it sits right now, where does Joe Burrow get when you look at that top of the hill status? Is he there with Boomer, Kenny Anderson? I don't know. I'm going to let you guys think of that. We're going to take a quick break. For those of you watching this on YouTube, you're going to just watch us stare at each other and sharpen our pencils for about 10 seconds, and then we'll get right back to it. All right, we are back. Left off with best Bengals quarterbacks of all time. I'm going to go right to you with it, Justin. Where do you think Mr. Burrow has gotten to? And where are the other quarterbacks that we've had throughout our lustered franchise career? Where do they fall at? What do you got?
So we're doing top 5 best Bengals quarterback. I'm
three.
just
I'm gonna give you three. Just do top three. I think there's definitely a shelf at 3, right?
Yeah.
I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to go with Burrow number 1, and I understand that he's only about to get ready to go into year 4, but come on, the things that he's accomplished, and he plays the game. Obviously, we know with the fluid mind of just he's just the best in my opinion of what the Bengals have ever had. Followed by Kenny Anderson and then Boomer Esiason, who both respectfully got an NFL MVP and a Super Bowl appearance as well during their tenures. And that's respectable for them. But Burrow, what he's done so far, who also was in MVP conversations for the last 2 seasons, comeback player of the year, potentially winning even more NFL MVPs. And the beautiful thing about Burrow's career is that it's not over, obviously. It's just getting started. So he definitely belongs on the top shelf for me, followed by Ken Anderson and Boomer Esiason.
All right. Chase, you got the same list, or what do you got?
So so when we made it to the Super Bowl in 2021, if Burrow would have won that game, obviously I think everybody would have been like, okay, he's the greatest Bengal. I maybe the greatest Bengal of all time. Like I know there's Anthony Munoz.
Munoz would
I know,
have a word, sir.
He would like to have a word, but Burrow would also like a Super Bowl ring. But I will say this. Right now, I don't think we can not say disregard, but really just forget the work that Kenny Anderson did in Cincinnati, over the course of like a 15-year career that he had there. I think Burrow's a really close second, but I think if Burrow is able, to still play at this high level, which we know he can do, if he's able to play at this high level this year, like I think he'll end up being number 1, like after the season. Like I don't know, it's just like for me personally, I just want to see it. I just want to see it another time, stuff like that. I already trust Burrow, all this other stuff, but like, if Burrow does it again, he's number 1 in my book. I just, with Kenny Anderson, what all he was able to do back then with, being a way different game than it is now. I mean, that was, 45 years ago. So, got to give respect to Kenny and all that. And he's a Hall of Famer. Like he is a Hall of Famer, but he is not in it. Like that is, I think that's ridiculous. There's a couple guys that are in there, that are Hall of Famers, but they just have not given them the respect. Him, Willie Anderson, like etc. And then Boomer Esiason at 3. Can't discredit the work that he did. 9 years as the Bengals quarterback and all. So I have Anderson, Burrow, and Boomer Esiason, but Burrow's probably going to take over here at this next season.
So that's a great segue into my take on this. I'll say, Justin, hands down, I think the most talented quarterback that we've had is number 9. He's playing right now. I think Carson Palmer. Would you throw him in the list? He's a 4. He's to me at 4. 5. Throw them all in a bucket and pick one out. So outside looking in, I'll give Carson Palmer a little bit of due, right? I'll say good things about him. He was a good Bengal. I look at it a little differently when they talk about, one of the main takes of the Hall of Fame is, could you write the history of the league without him? You know what I mean? So yeah, both Boomer and Ken Anderson, and all three there, and Joe Burrow have all been in, but not won a Super Bowl. So then I start looking at it from that perspective. Outside of that, how does this lens look as far as writing the NFL? What did they change? What was the landscape? What were the rivalries? Stuff like that. I've got Joe Burrow with his rivalry going on right now with Patrick Mahomes, and those two are going to be linked and etched in stone. So I've got him at number 2. And I think that we're probably a season or 2 away from me having a completely different take on this. But he's gonna be more relevant, I think, than any other Bengal as far as the history of the NFL, and that's going to be the difference that you may see with your Anthony Munoz take. I just can't do it to him.
Yeah, no, I know.
That guy sacrificed fingers for us. Have you seen what directions those things point?
I mean, those things go north, south, east, west, south, whatever direction you want to call it. Central.
He was a beast. So then in a complete upset from you guys, because what they did with the sugar huddle, the no huddle, the offense that they were running with Sam Weish, that changed a lot of stuff in the league. So I think Boomer has the MVP, has the appearance in the Super Bowl. I think you can't write the league history without what they did, which spawned what the Bills did, which spawned a lot of different hurry-up offenses that we now see when people want to change the way things are going. You see immediately they go to pace. Immediately they go to no huddle. You see those guys doing it. So calling those plays at the line of scrimmage. So I think because of that, I give Boomer 1, I give Burrow 2, and I give Kenny Anderson 3. Those 3 are very bunched to me, though, with an outside looking in for Carson Palmer. No disrespect to anyone. This thing, hopefully, next season, completely different list.
Yeah. Man, we think about that. We had different ones. I like it. Like,
I think it's
different perspectives on it. I like it a lot.
Well,
I like it too. Yeah,
you can because of the difference in their careers and what they did, and there's a lot going on there. There really is.
That's true.
So the other thing that this Justin Jefferson list made me think of was so he wanted to judge the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. I said, well, what about the top 5 wide receivers? And I started looking at the top 5 wide receivers, and I thought, man, I'm just going to rattle these off. And I thought, oh, this is harder than I thought it was. So then I started doing some research. I started looking at, PFF. I started looking at different the athletic, and I started looking at what these guys are getting paid at Sport Tech, and I started looking at all these different things. I had to come back, take a deep breath, go get a nice lemonade, and then come back to my list and see what it was. But I did task you guys with coming up with your top 5. Chase, who you got at 5? We're gonna go round the horn here. We're gonna get everybody's 5.
Cool. Number 5 in the league is AJ Brown. What he was able to do last year with the Philadelphia Eagles, first year, go to the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts, was incredible. He had 1,496 yards, had over 80 catches last season. He had double-digit touchdowns. What he was able to do in the Philadelphia Eagles uniform, especially coming from the Tennessee Titans when it was a run-first offense. And not saying the Eagles are a run-first offense, but they added a new dimension with A.J. Brown, and it ultimately led them to the big game.
Yeah, he's maybe the most muscular wide receiver on this list if DK doesn't get in here, right? All right, Justin, who you got at number 5?
Well, this is a toss-up to me because I was going to pick either Terry McLaurin or DK Metcalf, and I'm actually going to say DK Metcalf. He has a slight edge over Terry McLaurin, and Terry McLaurin is more athletic as the terms that he can do. Like, he kind of reminds me of a modern-day version of Chad Johnson if he was still playing, but DK Metcalf sort of reminds me of a modern-day Terrell Owens. I understand that there may have been a little bit of slight production fall off, but since he's been in the league as a second-round pick, I mean, I remember in 2019 when we drafted Drew Sample, and I was very frustrated because I said DK Metcalf was right there on the board, and to see what he's become now to where he's like a superhuman, like it's almost like he's the Incredible Hulk at wide receiver. That is impressive to look at. I mean, that's impressive just to see. This guy can make big catches. He makes big plays. He's one of the better deep threat receivers in the league, and quite frankly, his hair is a little bit too much out of the range for my taste, but at the end of the day, this guy, he got hands for days too. And you can also argue that he had sort of helped rejuvenate Russell Wilson's career before it sort of went in the toilet a little bit. But number 5 for me is DK Metcalf.
I'm not going to argue because I don't want beef with DK Metcalf. That's a large human being, man. I'm gonna leave him go.
That's a big guy.
Yeah, he definitely got probably a better argument for him than who I'm going to give you at 5. I'm going to give you a little bit of and I did mine as this year, 2023. Who do I have coming in at number 5? And I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Detroit Lions against everybody. Everybody knows Detroit against everybody. But I'm going to say almost 1,200 yards last year, 6 touchdowns. We need to have that touchdowns obviously increase. I think we're going to see some more passing his way increase. As Jared Goff went later in the season, it seemed like he got more comfortable with them. They got a little more balanced on offense. They're going to open that up a little bit more with Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield. They got the kid from Iowa at tight end. Like they've got some better pieces. I think that offense is going to open up a little bit. So I'm gonna actually put Amon-Ra St. Brown at 5 in a slight upset. Chase, welcome back. You get your technical difficulties taken care of?
Yes. Had to switch cameras real quick, man.
Yeah, life happens, right? At least you're tech savvy enough to pull that off. I might still be yelling at my camera. We're at number 4, so you didn't miss anything but me saying Amon-Ra St. Brown. So cool. in the upset at 5. So who do you got at number 4?
Number 4 in the league, I have Tyreek Hill. I know Tyreek Hill had a fantastic season last year. He was, two of his games away from maybe reaching 2,000 yards like he said he was going to do this year. Obviously, he's got Jalen Waddle in there, but Tyreek Hill's still doing some great stuff. I think, he's very versatile and all, but, I just have him at 4 because the top 3 I just think are very, very elite class. I'll say the 4, the top 4, but you can reshuffle it however you want. But just the impact that these guys have made on DBs one-on-one has been pretty crazy.
All right, I like him. He's definitely in my top 4. Justin, who you got at 4?
This is such an incredible, difficult thing to do. As you said in the opening intro, going into this list, is that you might think, you can just write off a bunch of names. And you thought, man, when you try to divide their games up and then try to peer away into a top 5 list, it's crazy. But number 4, I got Stephon Diggs. He was the big go-to guy for Josh Allen. You can make the case that if he wasn't on that team, then Josh Allen would struggle mightily getting the ball downfield, even though I think Josh Allen's an elite quarterback. But for me, Stephon Diggs is number 4. He's boastful. He's brashful. He's also a big play receiver. He's one of the better route run technicians in the game. I haven't seen him really kind of taper off any production since he's been in the league, and this is going back to his days in Minnesota. So I have him at number 4, and it was a toss-up too between him and AJ Brown, as what Chase you mentioned earlier. But I got to give respect to Stephon Diggs here.
All right, Stephon Diggs. I didn't understand when he left Minnesota, when Minnesota got rid of him and didn't keep him. It was definitely a red flag for me. And I'm really hoping now that he's starting to chirp about the Buffalo Bills offense and stuff, I'm really hoping he tears them down from the inside out. I would love that. I mean, I'm good with it. Go ahead, spill those toxic, fumes everywhere. Whatever you got to do, go ahead and get it done. That said, Stephon Diggs, you're number 4 on my list as well. He's a bad man. He makes some incredible for being a slider build. He is tough as nails going over the middle and in those seams, and he makes some really good contested catches. So I also had him at my number 4. Chase, who you got at number 3?
Number 3, I got Jamar Chase, our guy. The impact that he has on a football game and a team is unbelievable. I know last year he didn't play in 4 games. The Bengals were 3-1, but when Jamar Chase is on the field, I mean, you have to see, you got to double cover him at all times. If you're not, good luck. All right. Jamar, when he walked in 2021, we went to the Super Bowl. It was a completely different offense. We were able to take the top off the defense. We were able to do a lot of different things, and he was, winning multiple routes. And I think he's that energizer bunny. He's the do-it-all type of guy, and he really puts fear into offensive coordinators. That's what my top 4 guys. And obviously, like Stephon Diggs are just guys that are outside on my list of the top 5. They all put fear in offensive coordinators, but the top 4, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, the other 2 that I'm about to mention, they put absolute. It's incredible. I can't find words.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're gonna get a whole lot of argument from Bengals fans on that either. Justin, who do you got for number 3 in your list?
Yeah, there's going to be people that's going to argue to our fellow fan base that will say, "Oh, well, Jamar should be number 1 and all this and that." For me, number 3, I think is a safe landing zone for him as well. For me too. I mean, he's just special. I mean, there's a reason why we argued the Sewell Chase debate back in the 21 draft, and the argument was exactly when you watch Chase play. It's kind of like how I mentioned earlier when about Roquan Smith just unlocking the rest of that defense. Well, Jamar Chase does that too for the Bengals offense. You see the very best versions of T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and he elevates the receiving room, which then allows Joe Burrow to elevate him. That's always what my argument was about. He was just that perfect caliber receiver. I almost kind of put it in the basket of like he's a more muscular and a more bigger version of Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown, is a dog, you know what I mean? I hate the jersey that he wore, but
Great
man, I
stats,
see
man.
so many shades of Antonio Brown when I watch him, and he high points the ball so well, kind of like how Dez Bryant did back in his prime years with the Cowboys. So Jamar Chase lands at number 3 for me with the potential to climb higher, and yeah, I think he will climb higher when it's all said and done.
All right. Well, I tried. I focus. I read a lot of leadership books. I get into self motivation, self help, staying positive. Those are all things that I eat, sleep, and breathe. And one of the things that I really try to do is I don't let when other people have a bad attitude or how they react to certain situations or how they treat me is not going to affect who I am as a person and how I treat people. So I don't allow that. So just like that in this instance, I'm not changing my pick. I got Jamar Chase at number 3. So it's a clean sweep for Jamar across the board here. Year 1, 1455 in yards, 18 touchdowns, rookie of the year. Did battle some injuries last year. Only played 12 games, had over 1,000 yards receiving and 12 touchdowns. So if you prorate those out to a 17-game season, 1,481 yards and 17 tutties. So pretty consistent for first 2 years. I like where the offense is going. I like what we did in the offensive line. I think we're going to get a little bit more time for some deep shots. And if we get that running game going, I'm saying he looks pretty good on a play action pass on a double move. A little twitchy on a double move. He might be, Louisiana Bayou. All right, Chase, who you got for number 2?
Before, one more thing with Jamar Chase, as long as we have T. Higgins on this roster, he's never going to have the numbers that Justin Jefferson has because Justin Jefferson is basically by himself and they have rookies in there, blah, blah, blah. Just wanted to throw that out there. Number
Yeah.
two, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams, what he was able to do last year, walking in year one with the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, he still had like 1,300 yards receiving, uh, you know, close to 10 touchdowns. He was still very dominant in another uniform. It just showed that the Green Bay Packers really missed him. I know they didn't make the playoffs, but Devontae Adams was still doing work and still going about his business, and he was still making defensive backs look silly as can be, i.e., week one against the Chargers, making one guy go east while he was going west. There you go.
Yeah, Devontae Adams is a stud, so we'll leave it at that and go. Justin, who do you have at number 2?
Man, I wanted to say I wanted to put Devontae Adams in this list too, right here in this spot. But I unfortunately when I made this list, I was just thinking like, man, this is just too much special talent here. Because I can see Devontae Adams being a guy that's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. For me,
Yeah.
I had Tyreek Hill on this list because I truly believe that he could actually be the first receiver to break open 2,000 yards. I get it. He has Jalen Waddle on the other side of the field there, and he's playing with Tua as his quarterback. But man, I think that Mike McDaniels can craft that offense to be very special, and I think that he can actually be that person to finally do it. It'll obviously take a lot of work for him to do, but the guy, he's the fastest player in the league, and it's just not really much more you can say about his speed. But I absolutely agree with you, Chaser, about Devonta Adams because I could have easily had him here in this slot too. Um, Spoiler, unfortunately, my list is going to end without him in the top 5, but I have to stick with my gut and just say Tyreek Hill. I think he is more impactful for his team moving forward than I'd say Devonta Adams.
All right. For me at number 2, it's not Devontae Adams. He's going to turn 31 this season. And I normally see a little bit of a fall off around that age from wide receivers. Do I still think he's going to have a good year? Sure. I think he'll have a really good year if Tom Brady comes back and throws to him instead of the walking wounded. But I also had Tyreek Hill. And I would not be surprised if Tyreek Hill has a better season here. I think he plays for an offensive wizard who wants to show off and wants to have gaudy numbers. If Tua can also stay out of the emergency room, that could be something I could see. 2,000 yards, maybe it's a lot, but it's 17 games now, and they're got an explosive offense. So I also have Tyreek Hill at number 2. So Chase, tell me who you got at number 1 and why it's Justin Jefferson.
So the Vikings in multiple points in history have had like the best receiver in the National Football League, Chris Carter, Randy Moss, uh, now Justin Jefferson. Like, it's pretty crazy just to think. Sidney Rice was good too.
He was dominant in 2009
he
with
was.
the 2009
Yeah.
Brett Favre. It was
Him
crazy.
and Percy Harvin. Him and Percy Harvin were dogs. You know,
Oh, yeah,
like
Percy Harvin.
they've had some great single receivers, and then they've also had some great duos. Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So they've been fantastic with it. But Justin Jefferson, I mean, you walk in the league and have 1,400 receiving yards, and then you go to 1,600 receiving yards, and you go to 1,800 receiving yards. What's the next one up? 2,000? Maybe it's not Tyreek Hill. Maybe it's Justin Jefferson. But, Tyreek Hill in the offense he plays, and I mean, like you said, Mike McDaniel's a wizard and all that. He could probably get there. But, man, just the stuff that Justin Jefferson's able to do in the slot, on the outside, he makes sure defensive backs look silly. I mean, it just goes without saying. You put the film on, there you go. The best receiver in the National Football League.
It's hard to argue.
Yeah.
That said, Justin, do you have an upset here? Did you slight
not.
him like he slighted his quarterback? Do we have a Kirk Cousins moment here? A little
Justin on Justin crime. Dude.
Oh man, no, I can't slight Justin Jefferson here. No, he takes the number 1 spot for me as well too. And it's crazy how he just rolls in the center to the number 1 spot just naturally, just being himself. The dude is a fluid technician route running himself, man. I just remember the game against the Indianapolis Colts to where he just did this perfect fake slant inside and going outside and going into the end zone, just broke the DB's ankles. And I just thought to myself, that looks easy, but it is so hard to do. Especially because you're sitting on super athletic DBs that just understand how receivers sort of work in the red zone, and Justin Jefferson made them all look silly. I mean, that was so funny, and it was also great to watch him play. And it's just fun watching two of the guys that Burrow threw to in college become this dominant as well in the NFL. And I know it leads to that argument that, well, Burrow had this and that and stuff like that. Oh, shut up, man. Like, these two things can be
Seriously.
two. Yeah, like he had those weapons, but also you can also make an argument that he made those weapons better in college to lead them to having dominant years in the pros. See how that works? So Justin Jefferson definitely takes the top spot for me too. But your teammate from LSU might take the number one in there soon, bro. So it's just, hey, Jefferson, I love you and respect you, bro. You the king on the mountaintop right now for receiving class, but you might not hold it for long, bro.
Listen, I want to address the Burrow not without Chase and Chase blah blah blah, and I've heard this for years about every single sport there is. Who's the greatest NBA coach of all time? Some say Pop, some say those guys had great players. Who's the greatest quarterback of all time? Those guys had great players, great systems. Who's the great? You have to have that. You have to have that, but you also make some of that. Our guy only played 12 games last year. Guess what? Our offense was damn good. Joe Burrow, damn good. Yeah. So it's both. It takes both to be. You can be really good, but you have to have greatness around you to really elevate that greatness. That said, exactly. Justin Jefferson, for the past several years, he's been the best, the best wide receiver in the league. With the best grill in the league, and I'm gonna keep going back to Ric Flair here. To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Mm-hmm. So somebody gotta knock him off that hill. Right now, it's his. All right, so one of the things I want to do kind of at the end of each show here going into the season, I want to touch on something to do with fantasy football. We're starting to get into that area where, start doing your research, checking out what you got going on. We had a pretty full slate today of things we wanted to cover. So this one's going to be a little bit of a short snippet into what we've got. But we'll get into this every week. We'll have something else we bring up in here. So this week, fantasy football sleepers from our division, the AFC North. So you've got the Steelers, the Browns, the Ratbirds, or us. Who do you think could be that sleeper out of those four teams? Somebody, and it doesn't have to be somebody that comes out of the middle of nowhere. It could just be somebody that's you think is very undervalued and where you're seeing them going on draft boards or where you're seeing them listed by the so-called experts out there. What do you got for us, Justin? Who do you got?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with Zay Flowers for the Baltimore Ravens. He's rookie wide receiver. I know a lot of attention has been paid to OBJ, and not saying that he's going to get more fantasy value than his rookie teammate, but I think that he's a guy that his receiving style sort of complements Lamar Jackson perfectly, with Lamar's being developed as a passing kind of a running quarterback that he is right now. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. I think he is that perfect sleeper that people pay attention to. They know who he is. They understand his rookie, that he's a rookie and he's coming into a potentially brand new offense. But I think in a short window of time, you're going to see his name start to fly up, draft boards based off of his production. And he's a damn good route runner too, man. Like, he was pretty good and fluid in college. And I think that he's going to have a lot of athletic ability and trace and showcase that it's going to translate in the league pretty well.
Yeah, he definitely got a high upside for sure. Who do you got, Chase? Who does your one sleeper you think's undervalued right now in our division?
Well, I think the one guy that's really undervalued, and he's making his way up there right now, Pat Freiermuth from the Steelers. I think he's a great tight end. You know how at Heinz Field now, what is it, Acrisure Stadium or something?
Acrisure Stadium.
Yep. I should have known. I was there last season. But, they talk, they do the chant, Heath. Now it's Booth. It's Pat Freiermuth, man. I mean, he's legit. Like, yeah. He's going to be one of the focal points of their offense. I know they got, George Pickens on the outside, Deontay Johnson, but where you're going to find a lot of touchdown passes for Kenny Pickett is over the middle, and you're going to see Pat Fryer number 88 celebrating a lot in the end zone.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Well, what's funny is I've got Zay Flowers and George Pickens. Where do you have them going at? I could see those being values in a lot of places. I live in Pittsburgh. George Pickens is not going to be a value for me in any league that I'm in locally, but it may be in the one that I have that's nationally with people from all over the place. Because he's going to go higher on draft boards. Same with Pat Fryermuth, Penn State guy who's now playing in Pittsburgh. He's going to go now. Hopefully he stays healthy. He's had some concussion issues. So if he stays healthy, I agree with you. He could have a breakout season. Could be that security blanket for Kenny Pickens in year 2. Zay Flowers, the only question I have about him, 5'9". He's 5'9", Jamar Chase 6 foot tall. When you have these shorter, well-built, stocky guys, I'm not worried about, if he can hold up, if he can. What I'm worried about, Lamar Jackson putting a little more touch on the ball instead of throwing those hard seam routes or hard balls. He may get enough deep balls to really have some big, explosive fantasy touchdowns. So interesting. I think it's high risk, high reward there with Zay Flowers. I'm always going to mention Chase Brown as often as I can. So he got honorable mention for me here. But I honestly, I think it's a Pittsburgh Steeler. I've been seeing this guy coming between 10 and 14. Most places I've seen him 12th running back off the board.
Crazy.
I think Najee Harris, with some of the additions they've made to the offensive line and some of the things they've changed around here, I think he has a bounce back year. I don't know what was going on with him last year. He just didn't seem to be himself. I don't know if he had nagging injuries that we didn't know about, something, but I look at Najee Harris having a bounce back year. I expect him to be top 6, 7 running back on the board. I see him going at 12, 13 on most drafts. So I think that's a great value if you can pick him up, late 2nd, 3rd round. So that's my value pick for it. But yeah, that's our show. That's fantasy football for this, our first week of fantasy football coverage. Like I said, every week you will see it coming up, but check us out next week. We've got Cut to the Chase, correct, Chase?
Yes, we do. Cannot wait.
Your Tuesday night, is that correct?
Tuesday night, 8:05. We're going to start previewing a little bit of training camp action. We're going to be down there on Monday.
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see what you got. I know you just did a podcast with Ohio State podcast where you had a player on, if I'm not mistaken, correct? You want to plug that?
I had Dallin Hayden on the podcast last night. On Tuesday night, he plays running back at Ohio State. He stepped in against Maryland, had 3 touchdowns as a freshman, based coming off the bench. He'll probably be the starting running back in 2024. Really good player, great guy to have on the show. Did his player comp for himself, Aaron Jones.
Nice.
Love it.
Nice.
I love it. I can't wait to check
and what's
that
the name
out.
of that podcast?
Huh?
What's the name of the podcast?
So, Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast interview with Dallin Hayden.
There it is. Check it out, folks. It's good stuff. Justin, parting shots. What do you got?
A lot of what we discussed today was, some top 5, top-ish quarterbacks, wide receiver, and stuff like that, based off of conversation that's been held. I do want to kind of tease you guys in future episodes that I am going to come out with my version and critically analyze the top flight quarterbacks in the NFL, and they come out with my list. I can't wait to share it with you guys on the show, because it is going to spin some different heads and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's we need it. The training camp's happening, the season's ready to roll around. I want to get my takes out there just because I know what I feel like. I'm confident in the things that I say, and I want to kind of spin the block a little bit. So you're going to get that here soon.
Nice. I do listen. It's funny you say spin the block. That's actually available on Apple and iTunes right now. STB Spin the Block Mod, who did our intro music and outro music, just dropped that album today. It'll be available everywhere Thursday at midnight. So shout out to Mod, Spin the Block. There you go. Nice segue, Justin. Didn't know that was going to pop up.
I love it.
But no, I the short we did last Sunday, talking about the Mixon contract and the quarterback documentary was fun for me. What I'm really looking forward to is breaking news. I might be in my skivvies on this. Get Joe Burrow's contract done.
Yes.
We got 7 days till minicamp. If you want to get that done, or till training camp, if you want to get that done before then, I'm all good for it. If you want to have a crowd for it, bring it in. Whatever you need, whatever makes you feel good. Let's get that bad boy done before the season's here. That said, we are on Spotify right now. We're going to upload this video on YouTube. Apple Podcast is fighting with me, so we now have a professional that's going to get us on Apple Pod, Stitcher, and all those Google podcasts and all those things. I had to reach out for help. I fought long enough. I'm just guessing that they know that I'm a Samsung guy somehow, so they that's what I'm going to blame it on. Apple Pod, the cult blocked me, but we will be available on there soon, and we will dump them all. So thank you guys for listening to us. Keep downloading our podcast, like, subscribe, notifications. Give us that 5-star rating. We need your support to keep building this thing up. Keep bringing you more content, man. We appreciate you guys listening, and catch us next week as we're running through the jungle.